This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Relative to the autumn, when we saw massive counter-offensives in both Kherson and Kharkiv, things have calmed down a bit in Ukraine. The front lines have essentially stabilised, and the two sides are now fighting for towns instead of entire oblasts. Nonetheless, while things might not be as fluid as they were 6 months ago, a fair bit has happened since our last Ukraine update, especially around Bakhmut. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the most recent developments, why Russia has, yet again, struggled to make any progress, and what the trajectory of the war looks like going into 2023. As we see it, there are basically 3 places along the front lines where intense fighting is ongoing. First, in the north of Ukraine, there are regular military engagements along what's known as the Svatove-Kremina line. Second, in southern Donetsk, there are regular skirmishes in the outskirts of Donetsk city, especially in Avdiivka and Marinka. Third, and perhaps most importantly, in northern Donetsk, there's the ongoing tug-of-war over Bakhmut and some nearby towns. Let's start with the Svatove-Kremina line. Svatove and Kremina are 2 relatively small towns, each with a pre-war population of about 15,000 inhabitants, that lie on the Kharkiv-Luhansk border and are joined by the P66 highway. They're of strategic importance because a lot of Russian supplies running from Belgorod and other supply depots in western Russia down to places like Severodonetsk, Lysychansk and Bakhmut run through these 2 towns. This means that if the Ukrainians can recapture either town or even just cut off the P66, they can put pressure on Russia's logistics operation, which has already proved pretty subpar. Anyway, the Ukrainians have been fighting for these 2 towns since the massive Kharkiv counteroffensive in early October. Until recently, not much had really happened, but over the last couple of days, there have been reports that the Ukrainians have made significant progress. In late December, around Christmas, there were reports that the Ukrainians had captured a couple of nearby settlements, and that Russian occupying forces in Svatove were evacuating. Then, on January the 3rd, the head of the Ukrainian military in Luhansk claimed that they had achieved full fire control over the P66, which basically means it's within range of the Ukrainian artillery, forcing the Russians to reroute their supplies via Starobilsk. Now, we should say here that some Russian Telegram accounts dispute this, and even if the Ukrainians have achieved fire control, they'll need to take either Svatove or Kremina if they want to cement their advantage. Nonetheless, it's definitely not good news for the Russians, and it comes just a few days after as many as 600 Russian troops were killed by a Ukrainian missile strike in the nearby town of Makivka. Alright, so that's the Svatove-Kremina line, onto the south of the Donetsk Oblast, where fighting has occurred around Donetsk city in Avdiivka and Marinka. These suburbs have seen non-stop fighting since 2014, and they've basically been reduced to ruins. Despite being pummeled by Russian artillery for the past few weeks, Avdiivka is still firmly under Ukrainian control, and while Russian sources claimed that the Russian army had captured Marinka back in December, fighting is apparently ongoing, which suggests the town is still contested. Finally, let's talk about Bakhmut. For those of you who don't know, Bakhmut is a small town with a pre-war population of about 70,000 inhabitants that the Russians have been trying to capture for months now. Both the Russians and Ukrainians have lost thousands of troops there, and it's now been crudely nicknamed the meat grinder. The reason the Russians are willing to sacrifice so many soldiers here is that Bakhmut is one of the few remaining holdouts in the Donetsk Oblast, and from Putin's perspective, any politically palatable outcome will require capturing Donbass in its entirety. The Russians are basically attacking Bakhmut on 3 fronts. First, there's a front in the southeast of the town around Optine. Second, there's a front in the east, where the Russians are trying to advance down the T0504 road. Third, there's a front in the northeast, around Pidhorodne. While there are unconfirmed reports that the Russians have made limited progress on the second and third fronts, they're yet to enter the centre of the city, and at the current rate of advance, it'll take them at least a month to capture it. On top of that, if it takes them this long to capture Bakhmut, they're unlikely to ever take the other Ukrainian holdouts in Donetsk, like Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, which are larger and better supplied. Russia's high command have apparently realised that this is untenable, which is why in the last few days they've shifted their attention to Soledar, a smaller town with a pre-war population of about 10,000 that lies about 10 kilometres north of Bakhmut. Presumably, the idea is that if they can capture Soledar, then the Russians can cut off Ukrainian supply routes into Bakhmut and attack from the north and the east simultaneously. But it's important to mention that this hasn't been a cost-free exercise for the Ukrainians. Both sides have lost thousands of troops defending these relatively small towns, and the humanitarian toll is truly enormous. Nonetheless, it's notable that despite massive losses in both material and personnel, the Russians have failed to make significant progress anywhere along the front lines, and it's not clear how much longer they can keep it up without another mobilization. There's already some provisional evidence that the Russians are running out of certain hardware. The fact that the rate of strikes on Kiev and other major Ukrainian cities has markedly decreased, for example, suggests they're running low on Kalibr missiles. And American intelligence claimed in December that, at the current rate of fire, the Russians would run out of artillery shells by, quote, early 2023. And this might explain why Russia is using about a third as many shells per day as it was at the beginning of the war. Now, we should stress here that estimates of Russia's industrial capacity vary widely. We've heard constant claims of Russia running out of calibers since the conflict began, which clearly isn't true. And the head of Estonia's intelligence service thinks that the Russians have enough artillery shells to last until at least 2024. Whatever the case, it's clear that the Russians clearly lack the firepower to make significant breakthroughs. And this problem is only going to get more acute as the West steps up arms deliveries to Ukraine. America's latest aid package, worth about $3 billion, is the largest yet. And in the last few days, the US, France, and Germany have all committed to sending armoured vehicles to Ukraine, something they had previously resisted. For diplomatic reasons, the West has stressed these aren't tanks, but the distinction between an armoured vehicle and a tank these days is pretty flimsy. This essentially leaves the Kremlin with two options. Either they commit to another mobilization, or they focus on suppressing dissent from Russia's more hawkish nationalists, who are upset about how the special military operation is going. As things stand, it looks like the Kremlin has chosen the latter. Putin explicitly ruled out further mobilizations in November, calling it pointless. And the Kremlin has actually increased domestic security spending more than military spending in their 2023 budget. Now, heading into 2023, everyone's hoping that issues like this will resolve. But if world leaders are anything like us, resolutions and plans for the new year are already out the window. If you do want to improve yourself though, maybe pick up a new resolution and sign up to Brilliant, the STEM learning platform which helps you with exciting new science and maths topics through engaging and interactive experiences. Their courses, including ones co-designed by YouTubers including Kurzgesagt and fellow Nebula creator Real Engineering, bring the topics to life and let you learn by doing, not just sitting in a class like at school. That means that all kinds of topics which previously seemed a little too complex might suddenly be in your grasp. That's things like algebra, geometry, the physics of every day, or even gravitational physics. So up your game in STEM in 2023 to improve your understanding of the world, boost your career, help at school or university, or even just for the sake of lifelong learning. Plus, the first 200 people to sign up using our code get 20% off an annual premium subscription, which is probably a bigger win than most people's 2023 resolutions have been. Anyway, thanks for your support.